I would say, in the context of long-term agreements or commitments. But we need to do more. And I don't think one should underestimate sort of NATO and the European perspective of things. This is a continent with this extremely strong economies if we take everything into account, and we represent also world-leading defense companies and also strong defense forces, so we shouldn't just look upon things as being sort of negative. Now, it's all about Europe, but I must underline that my view on the transatlantic link and that bond is really vital. We need close cooperation with the US and the United States and their industry. But the reverse is also true. I think we forget that sometimes, that the dependency goes in both directions. We have a United States that from their defense capabilities also need Europe. We have many of our companies in Europe have presence in the United States where we invest in R&D, we develop capabilities, we manufacture excellent products, we perform research, and we are connected to the deterrence and the defense capabilities in the United States as well. So this sort of, I don't believe, I'm sorry to say this, if there's a big French coalition in the room, but I don't really believe in the pure strategic autonomy. I really think it's not either or. Then it's no question about that we have to take a big responsibility ourselves for our own security in Europe. That's absolutely true. So, as many NATO representatives have said, we will never have a strong defense and deterrence if we don't have a strong defense industry. And the NATO summit in Hague was, of course, a big success. And now there are many countries now going from words to actions in terms of spending and committing resources going forward so we can quickly increase our deterrence and protecting our people and societies. I just hope that sort of this time schedule of 10 years now, from 25 to 35, doesn't mean that we backload this expenditure, so we still have a similar sort of thing that we saw with the 2%, but now it's 3.5% or 5%, depending on how you look upon it, but it mustn't be too late. And I see different views on that from different countries in Europe, as you know. But it's also true that the European Union is really stepping up to find incentives and initiatives to do more alignment of requirements, to do more common acquisitions, and the SAFE instrument will be discussed a lot, I think, during this conference. It's already almost been fully booked to use that SAFE loan investment as an instrument. But also the EDIP is a very important thing going forward if we can get countries and industries to work together, because if countries align requirements, industries will come together. We will see consolidation and joint ventures in Europe, and we will see less fragmentation. But of course, industry needs clarity and long-term commitments and understanding sort of what is the capacity levels that's needed long-term, what are the technologies that we should embrace going forward. And I must say that the risks we are taking to some extent now are sort of not based on really long-term commitments, building new factories, investing in many countries as we speak. We need to have that discussion. What are actually the deterrence levels we are prepared to pay for in the European continent going forward, because it's an insurance premium that we have to agree upon. If I move to Poland, which is an incredibly important country to us as a company, we share a lot, of course. We share the challenges, we share the same geographic position, we share the Baltic Sea, we share the assessment of the threat environment, and we have lots of alignment when it comes to innovation, entrepreneurship, and responsibilities here. So it's Poland and Sweden to start with, but the Nordics, the Baltics, the NB8++, whatever you call it, including maybe Germany and UK, have very common view what we need to do going forward. So we see emerging coalition of willings. Over the last 20 years, we have been a partner to Poland, and we have a strong record of very successful projects. And for those of you who do not know what we're doing, and I'm not going to do a complete company presentation here, we have airborne early warning in the country. We're building SIGINT ships together with Polish industry. We have underwater unmanned capability in Poland. We do combat training center used by NATO. And we have also support weapons in the country to a large extent. And our Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Prime Minister Donald Tusk signed an agreement now in November 24. And since then, this partnership is really growing and deepening as we speak. And of course, Saab, Sweden has an unproportionately large defense industry for its population. So for us as a company, Saab, we of course, it's a win-win to us to find hubs in Europe to grow our engineering capabilities, but also our manufacturing sites to create redundancy and capacity. So this is a DNA of our company, the cooperation in the global market. And at the 2 weeks ago at the MSPO, the exhibition, we signed cooperation agreements with varying different Polish companies, both when it comes to existing programs, but of course, as you probably know, we're fighting hard to sort of be selected on the future Orca submarine program going forward, because we do manufacture conventional submarines. So in essence, this is one of the hubs, one of the countries I go most often to. I travel here a lot, and this is one of our most important collaboration partners. We have many more in Europe and US as well, but this country is probably the one I travel most frequently to. So I look forward to more visits and more investments and more partnerships, and that will of course translate into not only defense capabilities and strong industrial relationships, but it will be very important for also the alliance and Europe going forward. So that's how I see it, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Michał, for your opening remarks and for contributing to this first day of discussions here at the Defense Track of the Wars and Security Forum. Gentlemen, ladies, please, it is my pleasure to now welcome to the stage Christopher Brown, Vice President, Global Strategy and International Business Development with General Dynamics. Christopher, please join me on stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I see just a little bit more choice in seating versus the panel. I understand that for many, these contractor presentations are paid commercials and they leave the room. But I'm going to make it worth your while that you stuck around to listen to the General Dynamics story. Okay. So as a reminder, we are the prime contractor for the M1 Abrams main battle tank, and that's entering into service with the Polish land forces. In fact, it's quite a story in terms of how quickly we've been able to pull together that capability for the Polish land forces. Poland is, in fact, the first NATO country to adopt the Abrams. Although it's been in service with the U.S. Army since the 1980s, Poland is the first NATO country to select the Abrams and bring it into service. And we're very excited about that. Soon after that, the Romanians have also selected the Abrams as part of their modernization activity of their army. So we also make the Stryker wheeled combat vehicles for the U.S. Army and a number of NATO countries. We make the Ajax tracked combat vehicle system in the UK, and we're looking to start exports of that system. And of course, we also make the light armored vehicle in service with a number of countries, including Canada, the U.S. Marine Corps, and others. So last year I gave a quick presentation on the topic was Ready to Fight Tonight, and it was really about the dilemma of making sure that when a country like Poland invests millions, billions of dollars in modernization, the equipment that they have has to be ready. Because if it's not ready when you need it, then truly what is the deterrent effect? And I think you heard on the panel, the conversation was deterrence is in the eye of your adversary. And if they don't believe that this modern equipment that you've spent so much money and time and treasure to bring into service, if it's ready to go when you need it, then you're going to be pressured, you're going to be tested, and it won't be there when you need it. So we continue on this journey of trying to establish the ecosystem here in Poland to ensure that Abrams and any other of our capabilities that we bring into the Polish land forces are in fact ready to fight tonight. So in a very short period of time, we've learned a lot about how to set up industrial partnerships here in Poland. And it goes without saying, every country, every jurisdiction, every culture is different. And so taking a model that worked in one country and trying to bring it into another blindly is not a recipe for success. And so we've been fairly pragmatic, I would say, in our approach. And I think that approach is really starting to bear fruit. Our partnership is with a PGZ subsidiary called WZM. They're in Poznan, Poland. And they've got a tremendous heritage of armored vehicle technology, repair and return and servicing and maintenance and modernization. And so we've learned a lot with our Polish partners over the last few years. So what have we learned? Okay. We've learned that creating an industrial capability with speed and volume is very complex, and the complexity isn't in the things that you would likely first start off with, right? It's not really about regulations and technology transfer. It's about more softer or human elements with respect to building trust and accepting risk. And so our journey has had some stops and starts and ups and downs, but we are making significant progress. And the team is gaining credibility and capability every day. And it's one that we're extremely proud of, this journey. So the journey involves not just General Dynamics and WZM, but involves a whole range of companies that we call Team Abrams. And so these are suppliers and sub-tier suppliers that support the U.S. Army fleet of Abrams and those of its allies around the world, and they have come to Poland. And we are working in a very unofficial way together, I'd say, without commercial contracts between us, to establish the right level of industrialization and capability here in Poland, because it's the right thing to do. And that young corporal that is in the Polish land forces and is joining a unit that has a brand new M1 tank joining that, being equipped into that battalion, wants it to work, needs the parts, needs the training. And we have an obligation to that young soldier to make sure that that capability exists. So we've been in the press. You've heard all sorts of, if you've been following the Polish media with regards to the fielding of the M1 program, and is it going fast enough? And are we getting enough capability? Well, let me tell you, our approach has been slow is steady, and steady is fast. Slow is steady, and steady is fast. Don't skip steps. Do the hard things that need to be done to set you up for a long-term capability. And what we found is that despite some early criticisms, in fact, we are outpacing a range of other modernization programs of equal or more complexity, equal or less complexity than the M1 program. And so we are on contract, on time, and delivering capability on budget to the Polish land forces. So we fielded the M1A1 in record time. Our on-time deliveries of the M1A2 SEP V3 continue, and it's really through the establishment and growth of our partnerships across Poland that we're setting ourselves up, I think, for a long-term capability. We have announced at MSPO, which is the Polish Defense Industry Trade Show just a few weeks ago, that we've expanded our partnerships in Poland to an additional 8 suppliers with 52 different contracts. And those suppliers, this is really important, those suppliers aren't just going to be going on to the M1 program. They're going to be part of our global supply chain, and we would envision these Polish suppliers being long-term partners with us, delivering capability not just to Poland, but to the U.S. Army and our other international customers around the world. And there is, in fact, what I think is a great example of real industrial deterrence. Another highlight from the MSPO show was that we delivered our first fully repaired M1 tank that was repaired at WZM back to the Polish land forces. And you'd say, well, what's so new about that? Well, that is, in fact, not a real capability that often exists in a country so soon in their ownership experience with an Abrams. Many countries don't have that capability, and those tanks would have to leave the country to go get repaired. And so Polish tanks need never leave the country to be serviced. The capabilities here, that is our vision. We share that vision with our partners, and that's what we seek to deliver. We also have other capabilities that this ecosystem that we're setting up would support coming in. And so we understand there to be a heavy infantry fighting vehicle requirement in the future for Poland, as well as an 8x8, new 8x8 program. And everything that we've built in terms of capability would enable us to bring other capabilities from our product base into Poland. We have the Ajax fighting family of combat vehicles in the United Kingdom that's entering service with the British Army. We anticipate a declaration of initial operating capability shortly, and that would be a great product to come into Poland, as Poland would be the first partner nation to join the British Army and that capability. So very exciting potential, and everything that we've done really would make that program go faster and increase local content, which I know is very important here in Poland. So we are extremely proud of our progress to date. All of our achievements in terms of industrialization and localization here in Poland have been done without any offset requirement. We have no localization requirement here in Poland. The reason General Dynamics is so aggressive in trying to create this capability is it's the right thing to do. There's world-class capability here in Poland. It strengthens our supply chain. It builds second sources of supply. It strengthens the industrial deterrence of NATO. And we are extremely pleased of what we've been able to advance and achieve. This conference has always emphasized the importance of partnerships. You heard it with the Prime Minister's comments this morning, with President Zelensky's comments this morning. And I think it's because Poland knows the importance of who will be by your side when you need it most. And General Dynamics is pleased to be here in Poland and by the side of the Polish land forces on their modernization journey. So thank you for your time, and have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher, for, again, your contribution and for sharing both an update and perspective of General Dynamics in developing industrial capacity and partnerships here in Poland in particular. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the stage Doug Stevenson, Vice President of Europe and NATO for Requirements and Capabilities at Raytheon and RTX Business. Doug, please join me on stage.
Chris is a bit taller than me. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure here to be at Warsaw Security Forum again this year. I'm proud to say that I actually attended and supported the first Warsaw Security Forum over a decade ago. So it's good to see a lot of friends and familiar faces here over the years, and it's fantastic to see how this event has grown to be such a world-class and one of the leading global security events in the world. So a few remarks today, probably to echo some of what Chris just said and General Dynamics' successes here in Poland. We've been here well over a decade, and I'll go into a few topics just to share with you some of our experiences as well. Again, I lead the business development efforts for Raytheon across Europe and NATO. But today I'm going to speak also on behalf of RTX, the broader enterprise of which Raytheon is now a part. And for decades, RTX, through our businesses Collins Aerospace, Pratt & Whitney, and Raytheon, has been a proud partner in Poland. We have been here with over 9,000 employees across Poland, and I'll get into that a little bit in detail as well to show you some of the things we're doing in the country. As everyone's well aware, Europe's facing complex security environment, and we're playing a big part in helping support some of the efforts in Ukraine, of course, and here in Poland. And the security environment is pretty bleak. But it reminds us that collective defense and close cooperation are more critical than ever. The response from allied countries to these challenges, including the coordination of military assistance to Ukraine, a significant new investment in defense modernization, and much more, continues to be impressive. But equally impressive is Europe's determination to invest in its defense industrial base. 10 years ago when I was working here in Poland, the word defense industrial base was never even used. So I'm kind of encouraged now in the last couple of years it's used much more prominently and more regularly. The defense industrial base is one of the reasons in America we have such an established defense ecosystem. And I think now with the talk of growing and building the capacity in the defense industrial base across Europe is a healthy thing. That ecosystem has, been complacent over the years, and the investment that's happening now is critical to building up a credible deterrent on the industry side in Europe. So we're proud to play our role in Europe's and NATO's response to the current threats by providing many of the capabilities that have helped both Ukraine and the rearmament of Europe in preparation for today and future contingencies. Ukraine's military has actually employed at least 15 different RTX capabilities, ranging from the Patriot air missile defense system to Pratt Whitney's F-100 engine to munitions like Stinger, TOW, and Javelin. So we have product that's in the fight, but it's more than just product. And we'll talk a little bit more about the partnerships and cooperation that we've embarked on across Europe and here in Poland. We're working with many governments represented at the forum this week to meet their defense and security requirements, as well as the new NATO capability targets. Whether this is in best-in-class air and missile defense systems, engines and effectors for F-16s and F-35s, counter-UAS platforms, or even space-based systems. Across the spectrum, we ensure that our customers have the capabilities they need to protect their sovereignty. RTX's commitment to Europe goes far beyond product. We are committed to investing in Europe, partnering with European companies. With approximately 21,000 employees and 12,000 suppliers across Europe, and deep partnerships within aerospace and defense companies across the region, we are an intrinsic part of this European aerospace and defense industrial base. But take Poland, for example. We have, as I mentioned, over 9,000 employees here in Poland, making it RTX's largest employee base anywhere in the world outside of the United States. We are committed to our presence here. We are also a founding member of Poland's Aviation Valley and are one of Poland's largest civil aerospace exporters. Our Pratt & Whitney site in Rzeszów builds components for the F-135 engine, and our Collins Aerospace business produces F-35 landing gear. Additionally, we are investing in and co-producing with Polish companies. 10 Polish companies are already part of the Patriot air missile defense system supply chain, the global supply chain, and we are expanding this cooperation even further under Phase 2 of the Wisła program, which is now under contract. On September 16th, we supported the Polish MOD in their successful live-fire exercise of the Wisła system. Based on the combat-proven Patriot air missile defense system and the PAC-2 GEM-T missile, Polish operators successfully used the system to detect, track, and engage multiple complex targets at a Polish range up north. This was the first time Patriot had been test-fired out of Poland, and it's only the third location across Europe where Patriot actually has been test-fired. It includes Romania, the island of Crete in Greece, and now here in Poland. So they have this capability here, and we're very proud that was a successful event this past month. Earlier this month, our Raytheon business also signed an agreement with WZE to provide energy storage assembly modules for the lower tier air and missile defense sensor, or LTAMs. This will position WZE as the first international supplier on this critical U.S. Army program. So, and as the Polish Air Force looks to modernize its fleet, Pratt & Whitney stands ready to support should the Air Force acquire additional F-15 platforms or F-35s, or select the F-100 powered F-15EX. Should the Polish government choose the F-15EX, and I know this is a decision that's pending, and choose it with the F-100 engines, Pratt & Whitney would see significant opportunities to expand its presence here even more. Beyond Poland, RTX is working also across Europe, and we recently announced in late 23 a partnership in Germany to build new German production line for Patriot GEM-T effectors. This goes into the Patriot system, and also our recently signed MOU with Germany's Deal Defense signals our intent to co-produce again the Stinger missile in Europe. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the new agreement that Pratt & Whitney just announced with the PBS group headquartered in Prague to develop the next generation auxiliary power unit for commercial military applications. That was just announced a few weeks ago. This next generation APU will enable new aircraft design opportunities and additional capabilities across military and commercial applications, including additional electrical power, enhanced thermal management, electronic warfare technologies. So, RTX is clearly an integral part of the European defense industrial base. We support policies that strengthen the European defense sector. No single country possesses all the technologies, talent, or resources required to meet today's demands on its own. Now more than ever, we must co-develop, co-produce, and collaborate across borders. As Chris said in his speech as well, this cooperation is an intrinsic and invaluable part of the deterrent that industry brings, the defense industry brings to credible defense across Europe. But this requires leaders on both sides of the Atlantic to foster policies that encourage openness and partnership. In today's security environment, cooperation is essential. Welcoming U.S. industry partnership and participation in EU and NATO-led initiatives where it helps deliver the right capabilities more quickly can complement Europe's own strengths and ensure governments have what they need when it matters most. This is such a critical element of the deterrence that many now are looking for and was recently addressed by the NATO Secretary himself. Without a credible industry and defense sector, there is no deterrence. So an investment across the transatlantic partnerships, I think, is the fastest way to get there. And we're proving it. So, as governments and industry look to collaborate and find new ways to defend democracy and our allies and partners, it's really great to see everyone come together here at the Warsaw Security Forum and look for ways to collaborate. Please look out, for me in the hallway and some of my colleagues. We're happy to talk to you and engage and look forward to connecting. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Doug, once again for contributing to our opening with your perspective and the perspective of RTX. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the next panel, which will be discussing the challenges of multi-domain skies and key lessons learned from the recent Allied response to Russia's violations of NATO airspace and how to build air defenses for a saturated threat environment, as it currently is the case with European airspace. To moderate our next panel, it is my pleasure to introduce the indomitable Teri Schultz, reporting on NATO and the EU from Brussels. Teri, please join me on stage.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone who is choosing this panel out of all of the very impressive offerings that are happening at this very same time. I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't on stage, so I appreciate you joining us. My name's Teri Schultz. I have been covering NATO for more than the last 15 years, and I'm really privileged to host this panel. Ben Hodges said the panel he just moderated was the best one you're going to get at the conference, but I beg to differ, and the challenge has been set. So, multi-domain skies, building air defenses for a saturated threat environment. That was a mouthful of a panel title, but we're going to break it down and really explain what's happening in our skies, in NATO skies at this very moment. We will also be taking questions from the audience, so be thinking of what you want to ask my panel, starting with General Ingo Gerhartz. He is the head of NATO allied JFC Brunssum. Ben Hodges, which everyone everyone in this room knows him, former commander, U.S. Army Europe. Brigadier General Michał Marciniak, Deputy Chief of the Armament Agency Poland, on my left here. Steve Shepro, another general, Steve Shepro, who is now Vice President of Pratt and Whitney and used to be Deputy CMC at NATO headquarters, and Janice Zilch, the Vice President of Multi-Domain Command and Control Programs at Northrop Grumman. So I was worried, as I was speaking with General Hodges, about that I wouldn't make it home from Denmark last night to make it to this panel this morning because of all of the airspace closures. Since Monday, a week now, some of Danish airspace has been closed virtually every day, every night. So this just made it all the more relevant, the panel that we're having today. And of course, I felt guilty even thinking about this very minor inconvenience, and want to mention out of deep respect for our Ukrainian friends that, of course, when we talk about these kind of things, we have the luxury of not doing it under fire. So I just wanted to make that point at the very beginning of our panel. We will be talking a lot about NATO airspace. I'm sure Ukrainian air defense will also come up. But I think that it's important to note that these are, again, we have the privilege of discussing this while we're not under fire. So at the moment, we have a frigate from Germany that just pulled into the Copenhagen port. We have counter-drone equipment coming from Sweden and Germany to Denmark. And we have other various unspoken defenses coming to protect two top-level European summits in the Danish capital this week. And that's where I want to start with General Gerhartz. I actually thought we are seeing right under our very noses a real-life, real-time event creating a multi-domain layered air defense to protect the Danish capital in light of these summits. General Gerhartz, is that in fact what's being assembled here? And if so, is the very point of this panel that wasn't in place already and it needs to be?
Well, Teri, and first of all, hello to everybody. Multi-domain is key for that challenge. When I start with the incursion we have seen from drones here in Poland a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, the good news about it, we did something. So at least it was mainly a Dutch F-35 together with the Polish F-16s that NATO was able to take down some of the drones. I mean, they had all different timings and how far they flew into the country. So it's not like out of 20 we only took out 3. Some of the drones went really down quickly. So I think that was a good news. That was a success. That NATO was able to act. So thanks to the Polish armed forces, Dutch F-16s, NATO Aircom, and so on. But we all know there is a however to it. And the however is we cannot afford to shoot down $2,000, $3,000 at cost cheap drones with missiles worth $1 million. We all know that. So that's not efficient, and so we cannot, or we could not sustain it in case we have to. And so now we have to come up with other solutions, and there are different domains. Putting more assets in there, more fighters, that's good, gives us a good feeling. It signals that NATO and the countries can react, but we need other equipment even more. We need low-cost sensors. We need low-cost effectors for that. And that is multi-domain, having some air assets, some assets, for example, low-cost sensors, acoustic sensors, they are on the ground. I was here in Poland last Monday visiting JTEC. That's the Joint Analysis Center, which we came up after the Washington summit to put Ukrainians and NATO under one roof, because we can really learn, especially from Ukrainians in that sector, how we deal with that challenge. How can we field with innovative companies, with technology, which is out there as soon as possible to secure our space. And I see now a lot of engagement. You heard the European Union, the president called about the drone wall. NATO come up with the Eastern Sentry. Now you see some national activities as well. Now it's really, really important. And those activities are in different domains, land, air, cyber, and so on, to kind of complement, to synchronize all those actions. That is now really, really important. And yes, you might say, why now? Why not before? Why not in years before? Before I took over this position in NATO, I was service chiefs in the German Air Force for 7 years and always explained to the politicians, we had a declining budget line for more than 3 decades. So that was a lot of years where we didn't spend at all the money we needed. And now you cannot weigh between I need a counter small US system and therefore I don't buy a long-range fire artillery system. At the end, we need everything. We need to be capable of defending ourselves in all the different regions. The thing is, and I'm looking forward to hear the other panelists about it, and especially Michael, the way we procure those systems, which technology which is out there, that's something we really have to do much faster. Developing a 6th generation fighter aircraft or the next generation battle tank, yeah, that takes years, takes time and money. But a counter small US system, a counter drone system, that's technology which is out there. And that is something we really have to field now, not in years, it has to be fielded in months, in a multi-domain approach.
And General, back to my original question, while this is not all NATO's responsibility, it's also Danish responsibility, are you certain that the capacities that have now been assembled at sea, at land, electronic warfare, is it possible to secure the capital with all of the European leaders coming there on Wednesday?
I mean, if that's a national question, that's actually, it would be a question from somebody from Denmark. But if you see it from a NATO perspective, which takes care of a more broader view in case of you have incursions by missiles or aircraft or whatever. Yes, sure, we are ready to defend.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to General Hodges now. You have called what others are calling incursions. You're calling them operations, both in Poland, in Estonian airspace. I'm curious as to whether you think these latest, so far non-attributed drone appearances in Denmark are of the same ilk. One question, and just to front load you here, also you and I have spoken many times over the last years about how you believe it would be better in the case of Ukraine, for example, to, as you say, take out the archer, so you're not shooting down individual arrows when it comes to not just specifically missiles, but the very capability to have these strike measures that Russia is able to use on Ukraine. Does that also apply to NATO? Is it possible to take out an archer that threatens NATO? Both of those questions for you, sir.
Well, that's the reason NATO exists, is to deter those archers, and if deterrence fails, then you kill the archer. So the metaphor, it's better to kill the archer than try to intercept all the arrows, is obvious. You would expend too many weapons trying to take down every single drone, every aircraft, or every cruise missile. So it was actually General Phil Breedlove who coined the phrase, it's better to kill the archer, and I just have certainly adopted it.
for Ukraine, anything that we can do to help them destroy the factory from which their drones are produced. Germany just, so still back to Denmark, Germany just seized a vessel that was in the Kiel Canal that apparently was being used by Russians as a drone platform. So that's the Archer. So you take that thing out either by seizing it, like Germany did, or finding other ways to disable it. The point is, in air and missile defense, it requires comprehensive, integrated air and missile defense. You got specific weapons for specific incoming targets, but also the ability to connect everybody's radar, air traffic control systems, command systems, and then, of course, we should all be confident having a guy like General Gerhartz as Commander JFC Brunssum that has responsibility for, half of Europe. So the point of your question, these are operations, and this is not a semantics thing. Incursion sounds kind of harmless. It's like, well, somebody incursion, like, your dog made an incursion into your neighbor's yard almost. Okay, it's an operation, means it's planned, it's coordinated, it's resourced with drones to go achieve a specific effect. Now, whether that effect is to cause distrust and anxiety and concern in Denmark, for example, or for the Russians to demonstrate they can go anywhere they want, or to test how long does it take us to get ready. If we think about them as drones, then I think it changes our response, our sense of urgency. Think of them as operations, not some sort of accidental incursion.
So are you surprised the jury's still out on whether, especially the Estonian incursion, was accidental or on purpose?
I bet if you ask any officer in the Danish Armed Forces, he would tell you in 1 second, of course these are Russian drones.
And in Estonia also, that this could be
the
an accident.
Estonians are not confused, that's for sure.
That's true. Okay, I'm going to come over here on my left now. General Marciniak. Of course, especially here in Poland, Ukraine's experience informs your war-fighting plans every single day. And now, with you responsible for procurement, I'm interested in how the 19 drones, in addition to the Ukrainian experience, how does that change what you are doing, what you're procuring, and the lessons that you can integrate immediately into what Poland is doing? And right now, you are modernizing your forces, and you're going shopping. So I'm wondering what's top on your list.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, we are building our multi-layer air defense since last 7 years, 8 years. It is a real multi-domain approach from the medium range, short range, very short range. And what happened a couple of days ago in Poland, to be honest, it didn't change our approach. What we are looking for is the number of the effectors we can deliver to the battlefield. The only one, there are two issues I'd like to discuss. The first one is that we were focused on the very advanced equipment, which means it's quite expensive. At the end of the day, it appears that such type of the threat could be engaged by the very cheap cannons instead of the missiles. So it means that the cost-effective issue was very, very important. On the other way, we still have question about drones and the counter-UAV systems. The question, where is the limit of the drones? When we are talking about counter-UAV systems instead of air defense systems, and it's not defined anywhere. In our approach, we ask this question, and the answer is that if we engage using non-kinetic equipment, it's counter-UAV systems. When you have to use kinetic system like the cannon, missiles, or whatever, it's air defense. And air defense is well known, defined, and it has rules since I remember. So, and of course there are some limitations, because if we name Shahed as a drone, why we shouldn't name cruise missile as a drone or ballistic missile as a drone? It's the same drone. And I cannot use the jammers against the Shaheds because it's not that effective. So the question, I think this is the good lessons for the NATO, to say, okay, when up to which point we are talking about counter UAV systems, and when we are starting discussion about standard air defense. And this is what we are doing right now. We just launched the urgent operational need to acquire a lot of kinetic systems and deliver it to the air defenders, not other services, to air defenders to manage and to engage in case of. The problem we faced with in counter-UAV systems was that we delivered systems with the jammers to the units. They don't know the third dimension. I mean, air defender has to define not only land, but air as well. So this is the third dimension. And there was a problem to absorb the knowledge about targets, not having imagination about third dimension. That was the reason we decided to deliver any type of kinetic systems to air defenders, because they completely know how the system works. So this is the way we are doing. And as I mentioned, we are not changing our approach. We need to speed up with delivering in the iteration mode. I mean, I'm not thinking about, Star Wars equipment. If I get the cannon with the proper sensor and I can engage, it's good enough. The next couple of months, I will deliver more and more and more. So this is the question. This is the issue we are trying to speed up the process.
And you don't have the luxury of deciding which system is top of your list then. You need all of them.
I have 5 systems on top of my list.
Okay.
And all are very important because, you cannot deliver SHORAD system to the battlefield not thinking about medium range, because your enemy exactly knows what's the limitation of the systems. So if you deliver, for example, system for 25 kilometer range or the, let's say, 20 kilometer altitude, it means that 20 kilometer plus 100 meters they can fly over. So this is the reason why we need to think as a multi-domain, as a combined synergy between all this stuff. And the problem, of course, is how to manage how to create C2 or how to create procedures which will manage from the Patriot system up to the jammer. So it's a technical challenge, but I believe that we are doing it in the proper way.
Okay, and General Shepro, that this leads very well into what you were going to speak about, and that is, what is the place for manned defense? Of course, as we've discussed and as became very obvious, you can't use fighter jets to take down these 500-euro drones. So what is the role in multi-domain layered air defense for actually manned aircraft?
No, thanks. Actually, you can use manned aircraft
you can,
to take them down. You just need a lot of them. So that's why the mix is so important. So you're right. This question dovetails very nicely with General Gerhartz and General Hodges. And I'll just repeat a couple points from what they said. First is the integration piece. It really is like General Marciniak said, it's really a multi-domain approach, and you have to make sure that all of your systems are networked, right? And the ability to cooperate together. And that's what NATO does well. I mean, we've been training at this for decades. It's been NATO's strength, the ability to interoperate across allies and across systems. So that's worked well. And I think on September 9th, Dutch F-35s, Polish F-16s proved that well, working with the Italian AWACS. I think the second piece is really the readiness. Ben talked about the incursions. But really, if you want to deter a threat, you have to show yourself ready to persist, to go back again and again. I mean, we're sensitive as Pratt and Whitney because we've got the engines on both the Polish F-16s and the Dutch F-35s. So we have to support that readiness. But it's not just they're ready to go out and engage and network with all these other systems. They've got to be able to go back and regenerate again and again, because it's not just stopping your neighbor's dog from going into your yard once that's going to deter. It's the ability to continue to be able to keep the dog from going in or killing the owner if it comes to that. That's the business we're in. But that's how you deter. I would say the final thing, too, is that as you look at drones and you look at aircraft and their communication together, In the future, you've got to look at the power behind it. In other words, an aircraft doesn't only generate thrust, it generates electricity. And that's important because, like in Poland's case, in General Marciniak's case, as you look at advanced sensors and the ability to improve your reach, the ability to improve your networking, that demands a power draw. And so you really have to look at the ability, in the case of a jet, the power plant, to be able to provide that power to enable all those systems to operate. Thanks.
And I think that's, again, Janice follows nicely. It's almost like we organized it this way. Janice, to talk about the other strike measures that are possible, which Northrop Grumman is developing, including with Poland. You have a very intense cooperation with Poland, so that's another good example. And so talk about the other strike measures that your company is developing.
Thank you, and I just wanted to say it's an honor to be up on this panel with all of y'all, and thank you for the time today. So when you think about the complexity, right, of these strike measures and the fact that the diversification and the quantity absolutely affects the IAMD systems that we have, right? But we can't have this one giant impenetrable shield that comes at infinite cost. That's not sustainable, right? So when you think about the effectiveness, you think about three things. Think about, does that warfighter have the decision space that they need? And do they have the ability to make the decision first, right? Super important. Does it make the optimal use of all of our effectors, right? The kinetic, the non-kinetic, the ground, the air interceptors. And then finally, is it a deterrent to our aggressors, right? So from that perspective, Poland, I very much applaud Poland's acquisition and foresight for buying and procuring the IBCS system, right? It's with phase 2 with the Wisla medium-range air defense program and the NARIV short-range air defense program. That's going to create the largest target air and missile defense system within NATO. Poland looked at this capability and understood it was transformational in terms of what it brought from an open mission systems perspective and the ability to scale and the ability to keep at the readiness levels that are needed and to keep at that technology pace, right, to keep that roadmap going. So from the integrated battle management command system, you can add a platform such as the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, right? As the threats diversify, as you have that need for that multi-domain command and control framework, that air sensor gives you that 360-degree surveillance. It gives you the comprehensive common operating picture. So it really adds, with a radar and mission computer capability, that situational awareness and the tactical decision aids that you need to be effective. So what can industry do, right? I think there's a number of things that we are working to do in terms of how we integrate the diverse set of sensors, how we integrate the diverse set of hardware and software solutions that we all bring, and that takes government and industry cooperation. We have to integrate our AI and ML tools to be able to scale quickly. You keep hearing speed, and that is absolutely essential that the systems that we are procuring now have to have that open mission systems architecture so we can scale, so we can put new capability in fast and field it. You have to amplify the ability, and I call it the 5 inches between your ears, right? The operators with those tools then have the best decision aids and can make those critical decisions. You have to merge your IAMD and your precision long-range fires missions to move that kill chain left as well. We as a defense industry also really need to embrace the commercial industry, which you're seeing more of every day as we continue to work with the disruptors, if you will, and we need to also disrupt and make sure that we're getting ahead of our adversaries. And then finally, listen and collaborating with our warfighters to make sure we understand what they need and bring them the command and control system that works best for their requirements.
Would any of my panelists like to follow up on any of that before I come back to General Gerhartz? You want to try to delay that?
Yeah, I fully agree with Janice. And Michael talked about it as well. It is all about the layered, full integrated air defense. And when I see what the countries are now and procuring, and the NATO capability targets were an increase of missile defense systems of about 400%. So the point I just wanted to make, and that is something we still have to work on, the way we field, the way we procure highly sophisticated long-range missile defense system like Patriot, for example, is still a bit the process and the way we procure a system to defend small drones. Kind of the traditional way, we come up with requirements, and then we come up with a concept of operations, and then we go to industries. That's the way you have to do if you have to develop technology. A lot of technology we need, especially to tackle this challenge of countering small drones. That's technology you can buy almost in a supermarket. That's technology which is out there. And the way we field those systems, the way we procure those systems has to be much different with the technology which is already given than the systems which are really high complex technology has to be developed. And that is something I see all the nations and as well the organizations to it, like EU and NATO, we have to be a bit faster on that one.
Well, General, Steve, I'll give.
Yeah, I was just going to tail General Gerhardt's comment because I think it's an important one. You know, the current Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, General Dave Alvin, talks about the difference between build to last and build to adapt. And we're thinking much more about how you build to adapt, right? So especially, you know, our company, one of the advantages we have is we make a lot of small engines for like business jets. They could be quickly adapted to any range of drones, you know, cruise missiles, long-range weapons. And it doesn't take much, but like General Gerhartz said, we've just got to be able to collaborate and say, we need this in the field fast. And that's all it takes is a commitment. You know, business loves predictability. If you say, that's what we need, and we need it in 2 years, then you can get it to the field quickly.
Well, Secretary General Rutte said that NATO, and just to repeat that figure again, he said that NATO needs to increase air and missile defense specifically by 400%. Okay, so that either means you guys were way behind, or the threats have jumped 400%. I mean, help me deal with the number here. I mean, why do you need to jump 400% if you know, NATO was well integrated and everything was going well, and you have these impressive systems?
Yeah, good question, Teri. I elaborated already before on that one, especially in the area of missile defense. The cuts beyond 1990 were the most. I just, you know, I'm a NATO commander, but now taking Germany as a responsibility, as an example, we had 36 Patriot units all over the country. Now we have 9 left. And you can take that in all the other countries, as well as the countries like in the former East. They all had a lot of missile defense systems, and especially the cuts. And the cuts were like for 3 decades, were really, really high in that area. That's why those capability targets are very, very high. The money we take now in our hands, the 2.5 for the core defense spending, together with an industrial base, and if we are collaborative, is not every nation is going on his own track. If we say, okay, where can we go together? And if the systems, whatever, if somebody buys whatever NASAM system and somebody is buying an IOST system, it doesn't matter as long as it is integrated. And that is possible, and industry can help us on that one. And then I'm with you. Yes, 400%, that's quite a number, but I'm sure the job is we can do it in very soon time.
And General Marciniak, Poland was one of the countries saying that NATO needed to do more on air defense. I mean, all the frontline states have said this. So they were behind. And I mean, is it possible to catch up 400% so that you feel safe?
Yeah, fortunately we don't have this measure in our mind because we have started with 0. So even if you multi-type 0 by 400, it's still 0. And the good thing is that during next 15 years to the Polish air defenders, we will deliver more than 53 batteries. So it means that in the air defense we will be quite strong.
Well, how many do you think you need? 53 is a big number unless you need 1,000.
No, I don't think that I think the management of the air defense, this is the key, not the number of the missiles and the launchers. Having IBCS as a new generation system, I don't need to create small air defense cities to protect anything. So I can the number of the batteries planned for the medium range, for example, in Poland is of course it won't be enough, but it's good enough to protect what we have to protect. But what I'd like to mention, the acquisition, the numbers of the deliveries, is not the biggest factor right now in my mind, of course. The first is that we are still in the peacetime. We are building our air defense for the wartime. So the issue is that I have airspace closed. No one is from the civilian part is flying over my country. I can shoot to anything I can see. The problem we have right now, especially with the drones, is that we are still living in the peacetime and we have peacetime regulations. For testing sensors in Poland, I need to have special permission to radiate because most of the society cannot make phone calls because I can interrupt this issue. So the problem, how to engage, how to protect the country not being in the war, this is the biggest problem. Living in the peacetime is the worst case for the soldier, for sure.
Well, I'm not sure I'd agree with that. I mean, there might be worse situations.
By procedures, of course. It's not that we want to have the war, but again, during when the military controls some areas, it's more simple. No one can fly. If someone is flying over this area, I can shoot.
But these rules are changing. I mean, for example, Poland has changed its regulations so that you can have foreign forces on your land. This was just, a couple weeks ago during peacetime, right? So
yes, and we have some limitations in the eastern border that no one should fly there because we need to focus on the real threats. And on the other comment is that the perception for the air defenders is different in different NATO countries. Yeah. For the eastern flank, our threats are different than for Germans or the France or even Portugal, for example. So the equipment should be different, but I'm more than sure that we should be interoperable. I'm not sure if we should be integrated because this is the other step of the interoperability. But at the end of the day, someone should control what's going on over the NATO skies.
General Hodges, this is just quickly because I want to give our audience some time for questions as well. I think you're the right person for this. President Zelensky called in his opening address this morning, as he has before, for integrated air defense with Ukraine. Would this work? Is there any serious consideration being given to this? And I think probably not, but I'd like...
Integrated, you mean like with NATO forces helping inside Ukraine, helping protect Ukraine?
I mean, what he said is that Ukraine offers its expertise, which is better than ours, and he thinks this would be a more efficient way to protect also NATO territory.
So I've never understood why we are willing to put U.S. Air Force, Royal Air Force, French Air Force, Jordanian Air Force up in the sky over Israel to shoot down Iranian missiles. We have U.S. Navy and other allies out in the Red Sea shooting down Houthi missiles to protect international shipping, but we're not willing to do that for Ukraine. I think this is, I understand why it is. I just completely disagree with it. So it's feasible, but that would take political courage to say, of course we're going to shoot down a Russian cruise missile or drone that's about to hit Lviv. And you can do some of that without having to be actually inside Ukraine. But I don't know if we're close to that yet. Now, look, I'll tell everybody in here, I guarantee you, if we had 5,000 Patriots, we would not be able to protect where you live. So everybody let's be realistic about this. You'll never, ever be able to protect everybody and everything. So every country, every commander has to prioritize what do we absolutely have to protect. That's what Ukraine obviously has to do that. So you think about the Russians know that NATO response to any attack will be rapid reinforcement. So that means that everywhere there's an airport, a seaport, rail, critical transportation infrastructure or power structure, they are going to hammer the hell out of that. It's not going to be 21 drones. It's going to be hundreds of systems coming against Gdansk, coming against Klaipeda, coming against Bremerhaven. And we have not mentally prepared for that, and we absolutely have not exercised for that. As I was listening to Janet describe, this system, I mean, Hodges would not be able to do that without being able to practice a lot. And it's not going to be Polish air defense or German air defense or American air defense. It's going to be multinational, covering multiple countries with sensors in one country, shooters in another country perhaps. It's going to be air forces. It's going to be our navies. It's going to be land-based systems. So it's a very sophisticated, we have capability. We have not exercised it enough. And that's why on that night when 21 Russian drone operation landed all over Poland, and by the way, think about it, 10,000 American troops in Poland, and the Russians are willing to launch 21 drones into Poland, that tells you they are not concerned that we were actually going to do anything about it. And our response, great pilots, great platforms, but if that's our first response, that tells you we are absolutely not ready. At least credit to the nations that had given their pilots rules of engagement, allowing them to shoot. Not every nation has even done that yet. So I think if you exercise against hundreds of drones scenarios, and then we get better at this interoperability, communicating with each other. And of course, if the Russians have made the terrible decision to do this, they're going to be jamming the hell out of every communication system we have, all the radar, cyber attacks on all of it. I don't think that we have exercised to the level of rigor yet to be able to stop that.
Janice, from industry side, where do you see the bottlenecks in getting this up and running? If the money is there and the need is there and the urgency is getting there, why are we still so far behind on air defense as NATO?
I'm not going to go speak for NATO.
Thank you for asking. I'll go back to my original question. Where do you see the bottlenecks?
I think what you have to see is continued collaboration across all of these different industries, right? We have to continue to collaborate as a ecosystem. So within the different governments, within the different industries, we have to continue to understand that as we're building these open mission architecture systems, we can bring in capability from another supplier, from another industry partner that will be able to meet a need quickly, right? So the systems that have to get built, and we have very exquisite systems, right? And I think you're hearing a lot of why we need, less expensive and we need cost-effective systems that you can replenish quickly. You also need manned, unmanned teaming as well, right? And that's something that we're doing within the Advanced Hawkeye realm, is working a lot with MQ-25 with Boeing to figure out how to do some of those manned, unmanned requirements. So I think it's breaking down those barriers and understanding that as a collective whole, we have to go faster and we have to be more collaborative.
All right, we'd like to take a question from the audience, and I'm going to ask General Gerhartz one quick question. Rules of engagement, as General Hodges mentioned, is that strictly national, or would this also be something coordinated by NATO?
It is with the nations. NATO is coordinating with the nations. We've seen in Poland, it worked. All the rules of engagement were in place. Some countries we still have to work with, but into Poland, it worked really well.
We still have to work with, meaning your preference is that rules of engagement are shoot them down if you need to?
The rules of engagement have to be so in place that NATO can act the way it has to be. It's not like I say shoot them down or not. It all depends on the singular case. If it is an imminent threat, today we have already the rules of engagement to act. But if it is not a threat, we really have to think about it. Is that necessary now? Or is it like intentional to provoke us, and we shouldn't do it.
So you're questioning whether this is intentional to provoke you?
No, I mean, if it is intentional to provoke us, and it doesn't impose an immediate threat,
Right.
is it
What
then
happens then?
smart
Right.
to shoot it down or not?
Got it.
We can come up with a, I heard this today, with a no-fly zone, for example. And that's what Michael told. We are still living in a peacetime region. So we could say, okay, we have a no-fly zone over Poland. How many people came here to this conference by plane? We would be sitting really alone. Come on, we should really discuss it in a more calm manner, I would say.
Okay. Ben, you had your hand up? And in the front row. Okay, we'll take those two questions.
Thanks very much, Teri. Benjamin Tallis from Helsing. How do we get this cheaper mass into air defense? How do we actually disrupt? How do we get away from those old exquisite platforms that Janice just mentioned? But perhaps even more importantly, how do we get the balance between offense and defense right? During the Cold War, it was us pushing the Soviets to overspend on massive amounts of air defense that helped us bankrupt the Soviet Union and help win the Cold War. How do we avoid falling into that same trap and get that balance between offense and defense right?
Okay, we'll go ahead and answer that question because we have 14 minutes. I feel like such a luxury so far. Okay, who would like to take that question? Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we need to define very precisely what are the threats. And having in your warehouse very sophisticated missiles, which will, I believe, sitting there for the whole life, but you can use it in case of. Especially with the long range, when you can keep the aircraft and the other threats far away. On the other way, deliver what we are doing right now is we asked our industry, what do you have? And how long does it take to deliver it? And how, using the experience from the Ukraine, we could find that, the old-fashioned air defense artillery could be good if you equipped it with a little bit modern sensors and C2, because at the end of the day, bullet is just a bullet. So I'm not sure if I can answer this question, because probably it would be Nobel Prize if someone would find that answer. But again, especially right now, we are collecting what we can achieve during in our case, 3, 6, 12, 24 months.
And the Ukrainians have shown in spectacular ways how that can be done.
Yes, but I'm very careful with the absorbing their experience one-to-one. I want to have system in the air defense instead of the improvisation like they are doing, because they have to do this.
Yeah.
On the other way, we expect from the industry that they will be reactive enough to follow our ideas, not to overestimate, over-testing, over everything.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Let me just add to that point. I remember when NATO started just incorporating experimental industry systems into exercises. So we talk about the need to train more in NATO, and there is a lot of capability that we could just bring to an exercise. So on the propulsion side, for instance, we have a little turbojet called a TJ-150. We could actually print that now. So what would be a better exercise than to print these turbojets at the point of need and have cruise missiles where you could do a low-cost integration and fire them off? I think that would be an example, but tons of ideas like that industry could bring to a NATO exercise.
But then why isn't it? I mean, why doesn't that happen?
I'll ask a NATO commander.
General?
Oh, well, hey, I don't know why this small engine is not 3D printed. But coming back to the question, offensive and defensive. Look at the capability targets. We talked about...
They're classified.
We talked about the 400% of missile defense, but there are a big increase as well on offensive capabilities, deep position strike. So now we should really be careful in just reacting to the challenge we had now the last weeks. We have to. No, don't get me wrong, but not kind of like overreacting now to one side and totally forget the other capabilities. In the whole broader perspective and the whole spectrum of those capabilities, we have to go forward. And yes, in some certain aspects, we have to be faster. I buy that one. Yeah.
Lesya Robec, Ukraine. I want to address my question to Ben Hodges. You've been advocating the Sky Shield for quite a long, and while the panel in that room discusses whether politicians are already brave enough to unite forces, Ukraine and NATO capacities, you've been already putting the plan forward how to do things in more effectively in a military way. My question goes to you, and it is, first of all, if, God forbid, Poland is attacked with the same number of flying objects, like 600 plus flying objects, when do you think Poland will be ready to shoot it with 80-90% of success rate? And how many missiles and drones will be Russia able to produce till that time whenever you are ready to shoot only 600? So are we playing this time issue quick enough? And is there a sense, does it make sense to do that East Sky Shield of NATO combined with the Sky Shield over at least part of Ukraine to enable us to produce anti-drone capacities and then share with NATO generously, together with our experience? Thank you.
So, no, we're not ready yet. But that's why we're advocating for exercises to get to that level, because capabilities are there. It's being able to put them all together, and I think that's what's been missing. And again, it sounds like a broken record, but exercising so that you can communicate, you know the different systems involved, because this is all pretty complicated technologies.
But you're talking about exercising within NATO there, Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
Second, of course, the embarrassing part is that we have been watching Ukraine now for years doing this, and we still haven't taken the steps necessary, because this goes to the point of, well, we're not really at war yet, and so we're in a peacetime, exactly as General Marciniak said, we're in a peacetime mindset. Well, the Russians are clearly at war with us. I mean, nobody should be confused about it. They're at war with us, even if we don't think that we're at war with them. And so changing our mindset, and this is where our political leaders have to speak very candidly to all of us, that these are not just a series of random incursions or accidents or things that have happened. This is deliberate. And so if we can transition to a mindset that is, we are at war, which does not mean missiles flying into Russia. It means we have our readiness up, we have the right rules of engagement, the capabilities are in place, and people have this mindset, which frankly we always did in the Cold War. This is not new territory. Lieutenant Gerhartz, you can be sure, was in a go-to-war mindset back in the day. And we can go back to that and I think improve the level of deterrence. And then finally, of course, we should be, if you're a Russian pilot launching a missile at Ukraine or Poland or Denmark, the air defenses between us, I think, should be seamless, totally integrated. It's one piece of the sky, and being able to hand off targets between Ukrainian radar and Polish radar or wherever. And I know I sound like an infantryman talking about this right now, but that is technically something we ought to be able to do, and that should be our objective. But that would require our political leadership to declare that it's our objective, our strategic objective, that Ukraine defeats Russia. We want Ukraine to defeat Russia, and therefore we're going to do everything we can to help achieve that, short of, I don't think they're not prepared yet to have troops literally on the ground, but there's a lot more we could do, particularly to help ourselves with air defense by making defeat Russia our strategic objective.
Any serious discussion, General, about this in Poland?
Yeah, but I wouldn't like to mention about it very deeply, because again, what I mentioned, we are looking what's going on the Ukrainian side, and especially in Armament Agency, we are thinking is it doable from the technical standpoint? Because, I love declarations, especially political one, and that we will create, you mentioned shield, yes? Sky Shield, the typical economic initiative. So how can we use Sky Shield to protect Poland, and how could we cooperate, for example, with Ukraine, especially that we are in the NATO, we have our own standards, we have the classified information exchange. This is the biggest problem. I cannot imagine today how I could exchange classified information with Ukraine if I cannot do this with the NATO countries, without any bilateral agreements, without any month preparation. We had a couple live exercise in Poland when we have started 6 months before this exercise to be able that one C2 shelter will talk under the NATO secret, the same standard, with the other countries' C2 shelter, and we had to spend 6 months to prepare paperwork to plug in one to the other. So we love bureaucracy, and this is the NATO.
General Gerhartz, no one has time for that anymore, do they?
Yeah, this time should be over. That's what I mentioned. We have to be much quicker and faster in procuring the stuff, bring the stuff into the field, and to take all those bureaucratic hurdles away. There are areas where it works really, really well. So I think fielding the forces more forward, what we do now with the forward land forces, that helps us to train every day together on all the different aspects, as well as the counter small US. And if you train it every day, I'm fully convinced then we get rid of all those bureaucratic hurdles.
Okay, I'm going to take one last question very, very quickly and give my panelists a warning that I'm going to ask you what is the most important thing to do most urgently. Will be our final 30-second round to make our air defense more effective. That will be my last question. And there was somebody in the back row. Yes, sir. Quick question and hopefully a quick answer.
Yeah, Marek Świerczyński, Polityka Insight. I would like to turn this to the beginning, to your question, Teri. Why only now? I mean, all evidence was there that Russia has acquired this technology from Iran, domesticated it, developed it, enhanced technologically, and put in mass industrial production, turning into the prime tool of war fighting. So why only now?
Everybody's going to leap up to... No. I think it's more of a...
I mean, we talked about it already.
Yeah.
And if you see, especially the missile defense systems, now I go back a bit out of my NATO chair, back in my former national chair as air chief. I gave all my IRIS-T SLM systems to Ukraine, and more than 50% of my Patriot systems together with the special missiles. So, and the other nations did the same. So it's not like we didn't do anything in the past, okay?
Okay, I'm going to start with Janice. What's the most important thing to make NATO's air defense more effective today? What can we do today?
I would say holistically, we need to continue the allied industrial cooperation, right, and strengthening across our industries and across our allies. That develops discriminating technology, and then that also builds sovereign defense capability.
Okay, thank you. General Marciniak.
I think that there is no the golden answer, but I would say that define priorities. So if we define that air defense is really priority in the NATO or Europe or whatever, it means that we stop compete and start collaborate. And this is what we are asking industry since last couple years. Stop competing, start collaborating.
And you're saying that like a hypothetical, so clearly that hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
Oops. General Gerhartz.
The layered approach, the fully integrated approach, and the multi-domain approach, and that as fast as possible.
Okay.
I agree with that, and prepare to fight for a long time, not just one incursion, but be able to fight for months. You need to have the spare parts, you need to have the munitions, the magazine depth. It's going to take all that.
Last word, fair enough.
Joint multinational, multi-domain, theater-wide integrated air and missile defense exercise against a 500 target per night scenario.
Okay, I mean, I don't know how we're going to get all of these things done, but because we needed short answers, they won't be forced to explain them to me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone who came to our panel again. The competition here at Warsaw Security Forum is always fair, such excellent panels. And also thank you to those people joining us online. I know that sometimes I have to watch them online. Thank you to my panel, 4 generals on stage at once. And thank you.